Hello everyone, my name is Rylan Kolna and this is my book review on Life of Pi by Yann Martel. But before I get into it, I should probably tell you a little bit about the story. Without further ado, let's dive in. Life of Pi is an action-packed adventure novel featuring 3 different parts. Pi's background in childhood, Pi's action-packed adventure at sea, and finally Pi's encounter with people, new and old, once he returns home. Part 1 details Pi's childhood in Pondicherry, India, where readers will learn that Pi's love for animals comes from his father's career, which is a zoologist. Pi grows up surrounded by animals, and he also learns to love God and to have faith. Pi grew up as a Hindu, which is an Indian religion, and later on in life he picks up Catholicism and Islamic. Once wars start breaking out in Pondicherry, India, Pi's family decides it would be best for them to move to Canada or to somewhere on the other side of the world to start a better life. They head on to a large boat with all of their belongings and all of their animals from the zoo to make it to Canada. All of Part 2 takes place at sea, but without many of the characters we met in Part 1. Tragedy strikes, and the ship sinks halfway through the Midway Atoll. No one survives except Pi and a couple of animals, a zebra, a hyena, an orangutan, and a Bengal tiger. All these creatures, including Pi, are packed into a 26-foot-long lifeboat. Before long, as you'd expect, there is some bloodshed. The hyena kills the zebra and the orangutan, and the tiger, whose name is Richard Parker, also known as RP, kills the hyena, leaving only the tiger and Pi on the lifeboat to fend for themselves. For the end of Part 2, RP and Pi work out a living arrangement where they can live together in peace. The only reason Pi is able to do this is because of his skills from his father in zoology. Although Pi is alone at sea with just a man-eating tiger after just losing his family, Pi and RP manage to survive with Pi's cleverness, prayer, and willpower. After an almost deadly encounter with a castaway, Pi and RP find themselves on an algae-filled island, which they end up naming Algae Island, filled with food and clean water. After refreshing themselves and heading back to the lifeboat, they end up in Mexico, where they part ways without even so much as a goodbye. Part 3, the shortest part of them all, is when Pi arrives in Mexico. 2 civil servants of the Japanese Maritime Department in the Ministry of Transport interview Pi to try and shed some light on the sinking of the cargo ship. While they don't get any of the answers about the ship's sudden shipwreck, they do get Pi's story. When they question the more implausible portions of Pi's story, Pi delivers an impassioned defense of the better story to prove his point. He tells a version of the story without any of the animals mentioned above in Part 2. It's an utterly ghastly story, considering human beings instead of animals literally tear each other to shreds. Pi asks the investigators which story they prefer. They prefer the story with the animals. There's some wrapping up, but the book basically ends there. The reader is left having to decide whether Pi has concocted a totally elaborate story with animals instead of human beings to explain the horrific events on the lifeboat. So was Pi's whole story with the animals really just a cover-up for the gruesome events that took place with humans on the lifeboat? Let's dive a bit deeper into the story and the background to find out. Life of Pi was written in 2001 by Yann Martel, who was a graduate from the Trinity College in Port Hope, Ontario for philosophy. It was written with the purpose of exploring human instincts of survival and to teach lessons in perseverance, coexistence, and planning. The book was written for a juvenile or young adult age group, but with the deeper meanings and messages it provides, it can be fitting for all ages. This information clearly goes to show that Yann Martel was qualified and had deeper meanings to his work. In my opinion, I think this book was clearly written with purpose to convey meaning and tell a story of perseverance, resilience, and working hard. Now let's look at the intellectual, emotional, and aesthetic qualities as well as the stylistic devices that make the book how it is. For intellectual qualities, I believe this book is a reasonably simple and clear read. To a younger person reading, the meanings and messages might not stick out as much as it would to an older audience. From my personal experience, I read the book with ease and was able to decipher and see the meanings and messages hidden in the story. For the emotional qualities in the book, considering the darker subject matter in the book involving bullying, death, shipwreck, and murder, the book does not contain much humor or wit. However, readers may have an emotional response when reading the book because of the sad and dark situations. For me, reading about Pi's experience with bullying and losing his family evoked an emotional response and feelings of sadness and sympathy for Pi. For aesthetic qualities, Life of Pi doesn't have very many. The book doesn't have the best flow and can sometimes give an overwhelming amount of detail. In my opinion, it was slow at times and it was hard to follow because of the amount of unnecessary detail. Some stylistic devices I found in the book are symbolism, allegory, and motifs. Firstly, Algae Island in the book is an allegory for the Garden of Eden in the Bible. Both Algae Island and the Garden of Eden are seen as a paradise and are full of food, water, and other necessities. Next, the color orange is a symbol for safety. Pi's lifeboat is orange, the life jackets and whistles are orange, and RP the tiger who saves Pi's life is also orange. All of these orange items show how orange symbolizes safety. Finally, faith and religion is a motif that reoccurs in Pi's childhood and as he grows up with his faith, and how he adapts and follows new faith as he is surviving on the boat and back on land. Overall, I think these devices are helpful in telling the story and giving it more depth. In conclusion, I would rate this book 4 out of 5 stars due to its entertaining and interesting storyline. The star missing is because of the sometimes boring and hard to follow details. Overall, it was a good book with lots of good meanings and good lessons behind it. I recommend this book to people of all ages. Thank you for watching!